What's up, everybody? It's Goddess Z, and I'm here with another podcast episode on Holistic and Spiritual AF. Welcome, welcome. If you are just tuning into this podcast for the very first time, you are definitely going to want to stick around. If you're into topics such as holistic healing, ancestral wisdom, metaphysics, all sorts of tools that we talk about that you can start to apply to that mind, body, spirit integration, okay? So be sure to go ahead and follow me on the respective platforms. This podcast airs every Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, pretty much anywhere that podcasts are syndicated. So you can definitely keep up with me in a lot of different places. And if you are coming back, welcome back, fam. I appreciate you guys so much. The podcast has just been consistently growing. The guests have just been bringing a wealth of knowledge and information, and as some of you may know, on the first and the third Fridays of the month, I actually have a guest, and that's what we're going to do today. And this is episode 64. 64 feels like the number is just creeping up. And today's guest is going to be Elle the Icon. Known across TikTok as the Tree Lady. Elle the Icon, known as the Tree Lady on TikTok, helps open souls connect with the wisdom of nature so they can create their richest, most iconic reality. She blends the mystical with the practical, guiding you to trust your intuition, own your magic, and step into a life that feels aligned and honors your highest self. In this episode, we'll explore how nature carries messages for your spirit, how to deepen your intuitive gifts, and how reconnecting with the earth can shift you into the most aligned, abundant, and soul led reality. Okay, so if you've been craving grounding, clarity, or a reminder about your inner magic, you're definitely going to want to tune into this conversation all the way to the end because there's a lot of juicy nuggets in here that can actually be applied if you're on this journey. Okay, and you can always keep in contact with myself as well as my guests by checking out the description. Also, you can go to my website at Holistic and Spiritual AF, and I have spiritual consultations, books, classes, past podcast episodes, a little bit of everything, meditations, all that good stuff. So be sure to check me out over there, and wherever feels comfortable for you. And I think I've yapped enough. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. All right. Well, thank you so much, Elle, the icon. I really, truly appreciate you taking the time out to talk with myself and my audience. Like I was saying earlier, I came across you on TikTok. You were just all up in nature, and I was like, "Oh, I love this." And you were talking about how important it is and how we connect with our ancestors out there. And I just was really impressed by that. So, I reached out to you, and you're doing some amazing things. You talk about the gift of being present, the gift in connecting with trees. I'm really interested in hearing that and how embodying love makes you magical. Embodying love and the connecting with the God from within. Super excited to talk about that. So, just tell us a little bit about your journey, like how all of this got started, how you became a nature girly, and all of that, and etc.
Absolutely. First, I want to say thank you for having me here and this opportunity to connect with you and connect with your audience. Um, if I may share, doing more podcasts has been something that I've been wanting to do, but I've been holding off and waiting for the right opportunities to do that. And so when you reached out and asked if I was interested in being a guest, I was really excited to connect with an opportunity that is in line with where I want to be, where I want to go, and where I am in my life right now. So I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And how did first just a little bit about myself. So I actually have been on TikTok for about 3.5 years. And at the time, I was leading with brand strategy and marketing. I have a background in brand strategy and marketing, and um,
Me too.
yeah, and you're gonna. It's amazing, like the shift that happened here. But I spent about 3.5 years doing that. I lived in Dallas for 15 years and then moved to Oklahoma and really focused on my business while I was living there. And my business just boomed. It just went crazy. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And in the midst of that, I started to experience a shift within myself. And it changed everything. And one thing that I have learned as an entrepreneur is that entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey. And as we grow as individuals, our business evolves. And this can be very controversial because we look at businesses and how they let's just say a big brand or something, and we see that they shift and they kind of get away from what made them popular in the first place. But that's the process of business and entrepreneurship, is that as you evolve, the business has to evolve. It's inevitable. So long story short, as I started to find myself more, grow into myself, learn about what I needed to regulate my nervous system, I was diagnosed with MS about 4 years ago. And I somehow I came to a subconscious conclusion that I wanted to survive and live and make the most out of my life. And I started to let go of everything in my life that no longer served me. Now, keep in mind, this is the same time my business was booming. And I decided I was going to start honoring myself. And I looked up after letting go of everything that no longer honored me, and my whole entire life was gone. Everything was gone. But I kept the business. I'm going somewhere with this. I kept the business. I sold all my material things. I sold my house. Um, and I moved from Oklahoma to California. I shipped my car. I took my cat, one box of clothes, and my business. That's all I took. And I got to California. Um, and by this time I had started to connect with trees, but not really as much as I've been doing over the past most of this year, because where I lived in Oklahoma, they didn't have trees. But I found a little tree stub, and that's what I was connecting with, you know? And I get here, I fell in love with the trees, I fell in love with the trails, nature, and I was in nature all the time. In the midst of this, all the things that I did not let go of started to fall apart. My business started to fall apart. And I'm a very intuitive person. So I know that it's important for me to listen to my intuition to get through things. So, in the midst of the boat sinking and a hole in the bottom of the boat, something told me to let go of the business and let go of TikTok. Now, keep in mind, I had built up my TikTok page to about 170,000 followers at this time, had millions and millions of views, viral all the time. And I honored it. I posted a message on TikTok and I said, "Hey, you know what? I've outgrown this space. I got to go because I can't keep doing this because the boat is sinking, you know?" So, I let go of TikTok, deactivated, deleted that entire page, and sent out messages to all of my email list of my business, letting them know that I was closing everything down. And there was a lot of revenue there that I had to let go of. And at the time, I didn't really understand it, but I honored it. And in the midst of that, I did find myself in a very hard financial struggle. I went from having everything you can imagine to literally just a few dollars from being on the street. And this happened within a matter of months. And even though I was experiencing that, one thing that I always did and I stayed consistent with was going out on the trails and spending time with nature. I didn't care if I had 50 cents in my bank account. I didn't care if I didn't know where I was going to sleep that night. I didn't care if I had not ate any food that day. I went out to the trails. And after a while, I started to really learn a lot about myself. I started to see the magic in the trees. It was just this amazing thing. And for me, it felt normal. Like I didn't think it was like, I don't know if I didn't think it was interesting. I just didn't think anybody would find it interesting. It was just my life, you know? Um, so long story short, something told me to get back on TikTok. And I didn't want to do it. I fought it for about 2 or 3 months because I didn't want to go back to branding and marketing because I had outgrown that. I knew it was uncomfortable. I knew it wasn't going to work. So I didn't know what to do. Um, I eventually got back on. Something told me to get on and start posting September 1st. And that day I honored it. But before I posted, I sat in the car and I cried. And I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. But I hear you're telling me to post. I don't know what to post. So I ended up getting out the car and I happened to be by a trail. And I just walked through the trail and I sat down on a rock by some water and I recorded a video and I said, hey, I don't want to do this. I just want to be authentically myself. I want to honor the fact that I know I'm supposed to be sharing from a spiritual perspective. I know this. I don't know how this is going to work. And I kid you not, it was the third video I posted. Everything from there went viral. Because
Wow.
I was like, trick it. I'm just going to get out here and share what I do with trees. And here we are.
I love it. I love it. That sounds like your dark night of the soul. Now, you said
Yeah.
September. Was that this September? Like 2 months ago, September?
Right. Exactly.
Wait, 1 month ago.
1 month ago, something told me to post September 1st and post every single day.
Hmm.
And I honored it. I didn't know what I was going to post. I had no plan. I just
Right.
followed the instruction.
I love it.
Hmm.
I love that. That's that, like you said, intuition, ancestors, spirit guide, higher self. That's the same thing as the podcast for me. I didn't know what the heck. I was like, why? My ancestors was like, do it. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay. And I just did it. It's growing into something. But I love that. You talked about what would be considered a dark night of the soul, like
Oh,
big
yeah.
time. Dealing with the health issues, dealing with the major transformation with your business, which is huge. And I can totally relate to doing something, being good at it, but being out of alignment.
Yes.
It's one
Yeah.
thing we've got our skills, but it's another when spirit is calling you to something more. And that's what it sounds like. You just answered the call, and nature was it for you. That was your lifeline. I love
Yeah.
that. And then you hop back on like a month ago, and I've been on I've been on TikTok for a while, but I just now started posting every day, like about 2 weeks ago. But I love that, and I love the fact that you were so well received. I think it's because, like you said, you were being your authentic self. Because that's what struck me right away. Right away I saw somebody who was being themselves. That's what I look for too, because there's so much performance out there, but also the fact that you were so into nature. So I love that. So when you were in nature and you were going through these times where it's like, oh God, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what I'm going to do. Things are getting scary. What were some of the experiences that you began to have in nature?
I remember the very first experience I had where I felt the trees a little bit more deeply. And that was the week when everything started to fall apart. Um, and it felt like I went out. I was having a bad day. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was like bam, bam, bam. It was like things were hitting me left and right. And so I decided to go out in nature and to go out on this trail that I love to go out on. And I felt led to go out on. And I got to the redwoods right at the beginning of the redwoods. And I passed the gatekeeper tree. I call it the gatekeeper tree. This is when things started to connect for me around what the trees were and stuff like that. And I got to the mother, the more dominant tree, mother tree, and I fell. And I was about a mile or 2 miles in um on the trail. And when I fell, I just stayed there and I said, I know this leg is broken. Keep in mind the day had been going crazy. And I just said, okay, if it's broken, it's broken. I'm just going to have to hop back. And I remember hopping back on the trail, didn't know if my leg was broken, and I could feel the wind just go whoosh. It was the most craziest thing in my life this time period. There was things that happened that I just was like, no one is going to believe that this happened.
Yeah.
Man, I realized in that moment that there's so much more to experience here. And when we surrender and we allow ourselves to when we open ourselves up and just surrender to what all can be, it's just it just blows your mind away. And I knew what I was experiencing. I knew that the trees were telling me to go take care of some business. Everything was falling apart. I needed to deal with some stuff. And I was kind of running away from things, and I was running into the woods and just trying not to deal with my life because I didn't know what to do. And those trees was like, "No, you're not going any further in. You're going to go deal with what you need to deal with." And I didn't get that right away. I actually called one of my spiritual guides, and I was like, "What's happening? My life is falling apart in it as we know it right now. What's going on? I'm scared. Like I can feel like everything falling apart." And I felt like I was in a tornado. It just felt like this. And she said, "The trees are trying to tell you to go and deal with some of this stuff." And I listened, but that was kind of the beginning of when I started to have a deeper respect and understanding of the trees, especially around evolving. Now, I didn't really that was when I started to connect the dots, but I didn't connect that when I lived in Oklahoma and I started to first really connect with trees, that the first tree that I connected with was very um it wasn't a coincidence. That was the beginning. Now, I've always been a nature person, but because I grew up in a place that I didn't have access to a lot of nature, I just by default didn't have it, but my body was constantly craving it. And I feel like it's part of the reason why I ended up with MS, because there was so much that I didn't have access to honor myself. And that's one of the reasons why I moved to California, because I wanted to be around more nature and trees. But yeah, that was the first time in California when I really started to experience the depth of the realities of nature.
I love that. And yeah, you sound like you're having some really deep experiences with the trees. And I never thought about that. Now I'm always intrigued when I see a certain type of tree. Like, one that looks really, different, and stands out. So I always take pictures, but I don't think I've ever had like that type of a depth of experience. So would you say that the later on the trees began to talk to you?
Well, no, they were talking to me before that. They were the first tree that I really connected with in Oklahoma start was talking to me, but um I didn't think much about it because it was so normal for me. I will also share that I channel just naturally. So before
Okay.
the trees, channeling like people's lives and stuff was something I did kind of personally. I didn't necessarily like walk up to someone and say, "Hey, can I channel your life?" It was like me just channeling through observation. So me telepathically connecting with trees wasn't something that I even really noticed that I was doing
Right.
until later on when things start to fall apart, and I realized that the first tree that I connected with in Oklahoma knew that I was going to have all this stuff happen, and how it prepared me for that. When I left Before I left Oklahoma, I went back to the tree to say my goodbye, and the tree told me to take it was a pine tree, and it gave me like a little leaf of pines. And I remember it told me exactly what to take. And I didn't want to take it because it was like a larger piece of the pine tree. And I was like, "I'm not taking that. It's too big. Let me just take this one over here on the other side." So I
Right.
tried to break it off and it would not break off. And I was like, "Okay, whatever. I'll take the one you told me." And then as soon as I touched it, it snapped. And I said, "Okay, I'm supposed to take this one. I got you." What I didn't make the connection of until later was there was a reason why I needed to take that piece of pine tree, because that piece of pine tree was shaped like a broom.
Mm.
So when I got to California and I was going through all of that, those changes and feeling, my spiritual guide told me also that I needed to um, some do some work around protection work, right? And I needed that because I don't know what was going on because it was crazy. And I
Right.
remember taking that little pine leaf in it and looking at it, and it was shaped like a broom. And I would take it and I would sweep around the room that I was in. And anytime I went, anytime I felt like I needed some sort of protection, I would use that little broom. And then that's the moment I realized that that tree knew that I was moving, knew what I was going to be dealing with, and reassured me that I was okay and that I'm on the right journey. Um, so yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. I love the fact that you're bringing in the elementals of Earth because
Mhm.
with us being interconnected to everything, we have that at our access as well. So I love that, and I love that that's how it showed up for you. That's why I always ask everybody at the beginning, like how it got started. I'm truly intrigued because we all got our stories and our differences and our similarities, but this is really interesting. And the timing of it and that this was what resonated with you. And I'm like I said, I'm glad you had that outlet. So with the present moment, now I know these two go hand in hand because you're spending so much time in nature. One of the things you talked about is letting go. Tell us about your experience with being in the present.
Yes. If I may add one more thing before we talk about
Yeah,
being present,
always.
I didn't keep a lot with me. I mentioned I just brought the cat, a box, etc. But I did bring that pine from
Mm.
that tree. Something told me to take that with me, and I put it in a book, one of my books. So I took that from Oklahoma to California, and that's what I was using. Didn't make the connection at that time, but yeah, being present. I'm trying to think of what was the moment that shifted for me where I this became something almost like a magical kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is phenomenal. I remember being at home, and I've meditated before and I've listened to meditation music, but I just remember turning on this particular track and letting it play in my living room as I walked around, and something clicked. I don't know if I got a download or what, but something clicked and told me to focus on this very moment. Like literally, nothing else exists. Just focus on what is right here, right now, and allow your body to feel good. Like literally, I don't know where it came from. And I listened, and it was a shift. My life just changed. Like this happened within a week's period of time. And I started to notice the outcome, the results of that, the reaction of being in that state. The way people would respond to me was different. The way people would react to me was different. Um, it really was just a time period. I really think astrology is important because all of these shifts that happened when I was in Oklahoma happened around the blue moon of last year in October, late October or late September or something like that. And I had 2 weeks of like this major like crazy shift, and that was one of them. And as I got to California and being out in nature, it's the perfect place to practice being present and being able to be present with the trees and how the trees help us to emphasize that skill, that ability. And I would love to go out in nature and be super present with nature and then come back in where people are and bring in that state of being with people. And in my darkest moments, I really didn't have to worry much because of being present and being open as a result of being present, the things that I needed came in when I needed them. Um, Now, was it always easy? No, but I had to reset and continue to remind myself that I'm okay and that I'm going to be safe.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it takes those times in order for us to be able to experience it. It doesn't feel like you said when you're going through it, you ain't trying to hear that.
Uh-uh.
You just want to get to the other side and you want to know what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, when, who going to be there, but I think it really does take that, our spirit is tested, we're tested. We got to go through stuff, to see if we're going to be able to make it through and still be centered and grounded and be this different more evolved, transformed person. And I love what you describe in the time frame. I'm just listening to it because um I think that's what's going on with a lot of us on the planet. A lot of people are being activated. Same thing for me. I had a job, I had to just go. Like my ancestors was like, go. And that's a big part of nature for me is being able to hear my ancestors and being able to get receive downloads, transmissions, clear out the channel. And sometimes I just need to get away from all this electronics and computers and phones and things like that. And I love it. It's a reset for me. But for me, it's more about, like I said, receiving those messages, connecting with the nature. And it takes me like about halfway through a trail somewhere before I'm like, okay, like I'm disconnected and I'm connecting the source energy. So I love that for you. And then yeah, you just went through this. It seems like it was just a total frequency shift for you.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, and it was
yeah.
very fast, and it was ego death on top of ego death on
Yep.
top of ego. Like, some people you hear, like, maybe they lose their job, but they still have their
Hmm.
house, and they have their family, and they have their wife and their husband and their kids. Everything else is intact.
Right.
Literally, my entire life was gone. Everything. And the things I knew I needed to release a lot of things, and I did that, but what I didn't release was the things that I didn't wanna release, but those had to go, and they went whether I wanted them to or not. Um, and it wasn't just materialistic. Some things had to be removed out of my life so that I could receive the things that I asked for. I wanted to experience love again in my life. I wanted to have a family, and there was material things that was in the way of me evolving to be able to have those things in my life. One, believe it or not, is money. I
Yeah.
understand why the money was gone. I understand why it went away because I had money my whole life. And money was never something I had to worry about or ask for. I had everything I needed, and I also had a lot of flexibility with how I wanted to interact with people. When I had money, I didn't care to be reasonable. I didn't care to listen to anyone's perspective. I didn't care to wait around to hear what anybody had to say. It was my way or the highway, you know? Um, and it forced me to work on the parts of myself that matter the most. I
Hmm.
felt like I was not worthy to love someone or for someone to love me without certain material things.
Mm.
And it didn't force me. And because of that, I had not developed internally in regards to the most important qualities of a human being.
Yes.
And I realize now that it was one of the biggest blessings of my life because it forced me to become a better person. It forced me to become a better partner. It forced me to focus on the things that create and sustain a great partnership. And yeah, that's it was a blessing. And one other thing is I've always had a kitchen. I owned a home at the time when I lived in Dallas, and I never cooked in the kitchen. And I used to have a bad attitude about that. Don't ask me to cook you nothing. I'm not cooking you nothing. You go cook your own self something, right? And I'm sitting over here saying I want a family, right?
Right. Yeah. Good
So the
point.
kitchen was taken away. I didn't have a kitchen for a while. And then I realized, like, man, I was so lucky. I would love to be able to just cook some green beans right now.
Mm.
And now I cook every day. Sometimes I cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner with joy. No matter if my feet are hurting, I cook because the idea of my family being fueled for success is one of the most beautiful things I can do. But it took taking away my kitchen to get to that point of understanding.
Yep. Well, that's why I said sometimes you got to go through it, you got to feel through it. And I like how you talked about what true abundance is. That's something that I'm just now realizing too is that I'm abundant and I'm rich today in
Yes.
spirit. Like, and it's something, a different type of feeling and meaning than it was 15, 20 years ago for me. I used to think it was got to have the stuff, want to be a corporate girly, got to this, got to be a baddie, and all of. Now it's about my peace. It's about being able to rest. It's about, I think the main thing for me is the peace. I just love that. Like I'm protective of my peace, my boundaries, my discernment, the just the relationships that I have with other people. Um it's a beautiful experience. It's hard to describe, and now I realize that that's what wealth is to me. I mean, I have what I need on the material plane of things too, but I think because, like you said, those things have come and gone throughout my life. This is way more important. Like this to me, my health, my state of mind, my peace of mind. These things are the things that are true abundance. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up because it seems like you seem happy. I mean, you I always say that when people tell their dark night of the soul, you don't look like what you just went through.
Ooh,
Yeah, you don't. You seem very happy. You seem very full, very whole in yourself, and now you cooking every day.
cooking
I
every
love that.
day. Love it, love it. I lost a little weight, which is nice. I didn't gain a lot of it back because I've been eating so good, but
And ain't no way, it's all right. That's love. That's love handles, literally. So I love it though. So how has that? I know you said you mentioned something about a health diagnosis. How do you think this has helped with that, especially when you had all the stressors, in the beginning when you found out about that? How do you think overall this has kind of helped you to manage and maintain your health?
I needed nature. Um, Having MS and knowing that it is something that definitely affects the nervous system,
Hmm.
I spent so many years not honoring myself, not listening to my body. And part of my decision to survive is to start listening to my body. And I knew that I needed to be in environments where my nervous system could rest and regulate and feel good. And so being with nature is definitely something that allows that to happen. When I moved to California and I was going through all of these challenges, I was honestly very scared because I had MS and I was going through what felt like hell. And I didn't understand. I was like, God, universe, how are you sending me through this with MS? Like, I don't know if I'm going to survive. But what it taught me was I was way stronger than I thought. And in many ways, I had limited my physical abilities um, because I thought I couldn't do certain things. But, going through the journey that I've gone through over the past year, it forced me to get up and reconnect with how strong I actually really am. So, that has been a great awareness that I'm going to be okay and that I'm healthy and that being able to be really fighting to fighting to I don't know if I want to say fighting, but submitting to the journey to be and to honor myself, um, so that I can be with nature and live, as long as I can has been great. But like, as I've shared, it hasn't been easy.
Mhm. Yeah, but I know that like you said, it's good to have that you have the nature.
Hmm.
That helps you with the peace, that helps you being in the present. And it seems like you're taking care of yourself, as far as your mind, body, spirit. So that's what it's all about too. So, well, I'm glad to hear that. I do want to talk a little bit about your name, El the Icon. We were talking about that earlier. I was like, okay, tell me about that. Tell me the story behind El the Icon.
Wow, it's amazing once again how um everything lines up. So how it all started was I was working with a very large influencer when I had my old TikTok page. I worked with quite a bit of large influencers. And this person had asked me to work solely for her. And I said no, that I didn't want to work for one person. I liked working for different brands and people and things like that. And I was talking to a friend about it. And I said, well, I would work for someone who's like iconic. So if like maybe an icon, if there's another like Bob Marley or something like that, I would totally drop everything and just work solely for this person. And we were kind of talking about it and laughing about it. And I create really easily. So I didn't think that what I was saying was actually probably more than likely going to be me working put taking all of that information knowledge and putting it towards myself. So long story short, I was working with a branding a business coach for myself because I was rebranding myself before I went to California. That's a whole nother conversation. And I decided that I wanted to make icons based off the conversation I had with him. I was like, you know what? I want to work with icons. That's what I want to work with. And I think my name should be L, but I don't know what my last name should be. And we spent a good while kind of toying over this, and we just left it alone. And it wasn't until probably a few months ago, I think I was like, L the icon. I think it just like blurted out. And I was like, oh, I'm the icon. Like the universe was trying to like tell me that, hey, you're going to take all this information, you're going to use it for yourself, and you are the one that's going to be iconic. I'm out here trying to help other people be iconic, and it wasn't working. It wasn't
Yes.
working. And that was frustrating for me because I was like, I have all the skills. I've helped so many people be successful. I've changed people's lives from, A to Z and flipped it upside down to where they're living their best life. And I'm out here trying to do that for more people, but I'm being blocked, you know? I realize this is the end of something. So why do I have all this? Why is this all coming up? Why is this in front of me? Why am I dealing with all of this? Why is the word icon everywhere and I don't know what to do with it? I'm like, "Oh, I'm supposed to use it." Um Another shift happened in the mix of this relocation and letting go of my old TikTok is my old TikTok thrived with me helping other people be successful. So, when I got to California and my business started to not work, I realized I was forcing trying to do the same thing again. It wasn't working. And I said, forget about it. I'm going to use all this knowledge for myself. And then I switched and started using the skills for myself. And then things started generating again. I'm like, oh, it's supposed to be me. Okay. And basically, Latoya, you need to be seen. And then that's when I leaned in as well as to just posting all the tree content and allowing myself to be, part of the conversation. And I see that that's where I'm supposed to be. So here we are. And I am embracing my iconicness. So here we go. L the icon.
I love it. I love it. And I love the way you just described answering the call from spirit. Like that's it. Sometimes we're out of alignment. Sometimes what we're doing is we really think this is what we're supposed to be doing. Like you said, you were helping people. I did that at one point too. I was a social media strategist helping health and wellness coaches. My ancestors did the same thing. They was like, "This is for you." They were like, "This is." They were like, all of this that you're doing is for you. And essentially, it was for me because it allowed me to work in marketing agencies and things like that. So I had amassed and built these skills for that. But then that was great because it allowed me to fund my purpose, which was what I'm doing now. And that's how the podcast came about, and the classes and the books. And I'm doing a lot of things offline, which is, all by answering spirit. Now I trust. I'm like, okay, so you know what you're talking about. But yeah, I remember that. I was really struggling, and couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. But they kept saying, this is for you. This is for you. Sometimes I hate when they speak in codes. I'm like, just give me the
Just tell
sentence.
me. Exactly.
Give
You
me the whole
know,
sentence. They're like, no, we can't give it to you like that. But yeah, that's pretty much I get that. So when you say that, and it feels good though, too, when you also are in alignment and it's like, okay, it's natural, it's flowing, it's you. And people are resonating with it. And I love that. So I don't know if you're doing anything right now. I know you talked about some things coming up, but like what ways do you plan on helping people? Because obviously this is something that people need. How do you think LD Icon is going to be helping people like connect with nature, connect with trees? What do you see yourself doing with that?
well, one thing for sure is continuing to show up and be myself and allow people to observe me connecting with nature is definitely part of the process of helping people. Creating a safe place for people to feel safe to experience nature,
Mhm.
and witness self-expression unapologetically. And also being able to go out in nature with me and connect with the trees. I am a teacher by nature, so going on a hike with um, people who would love to hike with me, we're going to learn in the process. We're going to practice being present. We're going to practice connecting with trees. We're going to practice being vulnerable and authentic, and working through what that actually means and how to bring that back into our life amongst people and relationships. So that is something that's coming about. One thing that I asked for, once again, when I speak, it happens and I forget what I say sometimes. But I had asked the universe for, because I have MS, I was aware that this season of my life needs to be of gentle care.
Mhm.
For a change in my life, I needed to love on myself and care for my body. And that means shifting from more physically involved experiences to maybe selling products, whether it's t-shirts where it has, popular sayings and I love trees and different things that I might say that people love and resonate with. So I'm leaning into that as well, and encouraging other women, Black women, for us to lean into gentle care. And especially in this crazy season, all I want to
Yeah.
see is us laughing, having fun,
Yes.
taking care of our home, and being in joy,
Eating and
eating
eating.
and eating good food.
And you know it's gonna be good.
Exactly.
Yes, and I'm loving that because that was like one of the things that like really drew me to you because I love the fact that more of us are doing this now, like, hiking. I'm a part of like a few Facebook hiking groups and I've been out there. Now I'm kind of exploring my own hiking journey because before I found myself being a little dependent on the group, but I'm like it kind of takes away from my experience, but it's kind of safe too, so
Mhm.
like that was one thing, but I think I've now evolved to the point where I can do hikes on my own. So I just recently, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, did a 4 mile. And I was like, okay, that was good. I had the right shoes on, I had my hydration, I had my little All Trails app. I was feeling empowered, but I would love for more of us to be able to experience that. And that's why I was like, oh, yes, when I saw you doing this, I was like, yeah, we got to get this on the podcast because it's just like what you said, it's that self-care. It's that we just to unplug. That's
Mm.
it. That like, just for a little bit, just to connect with sun, connect with the trees, the earth, the fresh air. I love when I'm walking on a trail and I walk far enough where I can't hear the cars anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, that, and that's usually when I have that connection. And it's good to not just be glued to my phone. So I love that. And I really want to see that happen. And I like how you said, not everything has to be physical. Let's sit down right here and just take in the scenery because there's so much that you see. So I know one thing that we don't talk about very much when we're out in nature is the critters. Like, how are you with them? Are are you one with them too?
I am one with the critters and the animals. Um, I have learned that the calm nervous system, because animals are
It's true.
instinctual, right? They're feeling their way around what's happening and what's there. And so when our nervous system is calm and gentle, they can feel that we're calm and gentle and we're not a threat. And so that gives me a lot of peace when I'm out hiking. I hike alone a lot. I enjoy it. I love it. I am not afraid. I honestly don't. I'm going to say this, and everybody's different. I don't care what happens. I am in full surrender and submission when I'm in taking that walk. Um, I'm not afraid of animals. I'm not afraid of bugs. I don't flinch when bugs or bees or anything come around. I welcome them. When the bees come around, I say, welcome, welcome. And believe it or not, that's what makes them leave, is to welcome them, instead of, swatting them around like, oh, they won't go
Right.
away. No, welcome them in, welcome. And then they'll take off. Um, but no, I'm not afraid, because one of the messages that I got was that it was important for me to, I'm going to say, conquer the mountains, but that's not really, I'm just going to use that as reference right now. It was important for me to conquer the mountains. Why? Because where I'm going, when we are walking the journey towards our highest self, We're going to experience challenges. We're going to experience monsters and dark things, because that's just, it comes along with being great. And if I can't go out into this trail 3 miles without feeling fear and turning around halfway around, how does God know that I can be trusted with the mission?
That's it. That's why I said, like, and it's the same thing with ancestors. You've got
Yeah,
them, you're going to be tested. They're not just giving you the lineage.
exactly, exactly, and that's why we're not given the things yet, right?
Right.
We know, but why not? Because we're not ready. We're not
Right.
gonna fulfill the mission. We're gonna let down the ancestors. We're gonna stop on
Right.
the journey. And so when I realized and made that connection, that's when I said, I'm going. I'm going. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this. And ever since then, I hike, and I hike with no fear.
I love that. So yeah, we need some of you, but we need somebody like you leading
Yeah, I'm like,
the
come
rest.
on. Now, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I've had to pick up some sticks along the way. We've
Exactly. See,
seen
that's
some
me.
things moving in the trees, but we keep going. I keep going.
Right. And the animals are I've always been, drawn to like the furry kind of mammal animals. Like it's the others that and really for me it's the mosquitoes more than anything. It's the mosquitoes. They love me no matter what. But yeah, so I love that. And you talked about God and the universe. So I was going to ask next, one of the things that you talked about earlier was the God within, experiencing that God within. Talk to us about that because I know that that's interconnected.
Yes. So I would hear people talk about the God within, and I never understood it until I experienced it. And what led to that experience was embodying love in every single area of my life. And when I made this connection, I understood what people who have near death experiences always say. They always consistently say the same thing. We're about love. We're supposed to be here. It's life is about love. And I'm like, well, tell us what that means. They don't tell me enough. And then when I started to embody love, and it wasn't something I was trying to do, all I was doing was just trying to honor each part of my life, each part of who I am. And when I leaned into that honoring of myself and loving myself in those areas and feeling good and peaceful around the decisions I was making, it's like love came together, and I could feel my body just feel different. And I could look in the mirror, I could see that I was different. I could see how I didn't even have to even ask for anything. I remember I was going through I was feeling the God within, but yet going through all these changes. And I remember walking into this event. I said, you know what? I'm going to go meet some new people today. I walked in within 5 minutes. This man offered me a job as a professor. I had only sat there and talked to him for 5 minutes. And earlier that day, I had thought about, oh, I would love to teach. I go an hour later, meet this person, 5 minutes in conversation. You want to be a professor? I didn't even say anything to him about it. He just randomly brought it up. He's like, I'm a professor. You want to be a professor? And I'm like, you don't even know my last name, you know?
That's what I'm like. That's interesting. That's spirit.
That's spirit. But that is what those are the things, the kind of things that happen when we are in alignment
That's
and
so
when we're
true.
leaning and we're allowing that godliness to flow through us, we are taken care of. And it's not about getting what we want. It's about releasing and allowing our lives to be guided. We are here. I realized that and I learned that we're here to be guided. We're not here we're not supposed to be going through this life clueless, you know?
Right.
We say that all the time. Like people say that all the time. Well, I'm here and I don't know why I'm here and I'm just here doing it's because yeah, but we're not supposed to just blindly be walking through life. We're supposed to be guided through this journey, and
That's
we
right.
are guided when we surrender and we release and get out of our own way. We will be guided. We will be protected and provided for the things that we need. Another thing I realized is that what I want I have to get what I need. The things that I want to experience are there for a reason, but I have to get the things I need so that I can actually experience the things that I want. I wanted love, right? But I needed to appreciate. I needed to be able to hear somebody, see someone, value someone, know how to be a partner. I had to get the lessons in that. So I needed to get what I needed. And sometimes what we need, we don't want. We don't want
Exactly.
all of that, you know?
Right. It's like, let's get to the good part. That's
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah, I love it. You're saying these very powerful, they sound simple, but these tools right here, this basic toolkit, which is like really powerful and impactful for like the foundation of living a spiritual life. And you talked about letting go, that and surrender. That's a hard one. Like a lot of people don't realize that, myself included. I have to, in order for me to let go, I got to go through something that that makes me give up. That makes me say, okay, you know what? I'm turning it over. But the good news is I've had so many experiences in my life where things did work out, where I could trust, and that I know that I'm gonna be okay. Like you said, at the end of the day, some of the stuff that I've been through and that I made it through, honey, if I'm still here now, I know that I'm being guided, I'm being protected, and it's part of the journey. So you talked about that. You talked about being present. That's also another big one that sometimes is um is right in our face, that we dismiss or forget about a lot of times. But being present and being able to control and regulate that nervous system, also, that regulated nervous system allows us to be more in tune with all there is. So you talked about embodying love and be feeling that interconnectedness. So what may seem like a hike up the mountain or just getting fresh air is really attuning your cellular structure, your energy body on a whole nother level, that's allowing you to experience this. I love that too. You talked about the embodying love, that and experiencing the God within. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's that God expression, expressing through us and as us. So I love that. I mean, I really do. It sounds like, man, it's been a hell of a year.
It's been a hell of a year. It has moved so fast. It's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You've covered a lot of ground. You've covered a couple lifetimes in a year. I'm just, yeah, your ancestors wasn't playing. They was like, up, get to work.
Hey, one plan. One plan.
They was like, get to work. Well, awesome. I mean, I have really enjoyed having this conversation with you. I know my audience is gonna enjoy you as well. Tell us how we can get in touch with you. What you got going on? Like, what you selling?
Absolutely. So everyone can follow me on L the Icon on TikTok. And on my page on TikTok, you can click the link in my bio, and there you will see opportunities to get a tree reading. If you have a tree that you feel drawn to and you're not quite sure the message that it's trying to communicate, I'm happy to channel that for you. If you are wanting to hike and come to the Bay Area and hike with me in community, that is an opportunity as well. And I'm getting into a space of sharing more of my meditative practices. So I'm going to be uploading today a video where I am sharing how to create from bed.
Hmm,
So lots of things are created from bed, but often we don't think about creating other things in our life.
true.
So
Besides
yeah,
babies.
babies. There's I know we use the bed to create so much. Why not create a iconic reality from bed?
I
So
love
I
it.
have a meditation around that as well. But there's lots of things. People ask for my hiking shoes, so really great hiking shoes there. People ask for my glasses, things of that nature. There's merch, there's clothing, there's I Love Tree merch and things like that. So there's a little bit of something for everyone there in that space, my website space.
I love it. And I don't know how we skipped over the channel and trees. So, like, how does that work if somebody, wanted to get that service? Like, how does that happen for you? Like,
Yes, it's a 30-minute session together. And so starting out, I'll just get some information about what they're feeling, what's happening. Then I will have them share with me the tree. It does not take me long. If you flash that tree, I'm gonna be like, whoop, I know what's going on. It doesn't take much. But once I channel the tree and figure out what's happening with the tree and what the tree is trying to communicate, then I will share that with the person I'm meeting with, as well as some different things that they can do to maximize that connection with the tree, as well as whatever the tree is trying to communicate with that person. Let's just say, for example, the tree is frustrated or about something that is going on next door or something, or we'll talk about that. Like, what's happening next door? Did someone move there? Did someone leave? Did someone die there? What's going on there? And at the end of the day, maybe the tree wants the person to do something, maybe be more, connect with their neighbors more. Or let's just take that for example. Then we'll talk about how they can actually do that. What are some steps on how you can connect with your neighbors more? I wouldn't just say, oh, they want you to connect with your neighbors, go do that. I'm going to help them figure out how to easily do that, because whatever the tree is trying to get us to do, there's a reason. There's an elevation desire for us to elevate, and that action is connected to something else greater, and so we need to get that. And so I'll help them figure out how to work through that challenge.
Okay, I love it. I think that's the first time I've ever heard of that. That's exciting. Yeah. Like I said, I always come across cool trees and I don't know if they're trying to tell me something, but they definitely catch my attention and I always get a picture. So I've got
Mhm.
tons of trees in inside of my phone. But yeah, thank you so much once again. Like I said, it's been great having you on. And you know what? That is it. Until the next episode, y'all. Peace.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye bye.